cheat wild. Cause my hitters gon' die, don't die. The real hitters gon' shine, and my people gon' rise. Cause we're born to win, yeah. I ain't saying
how the hell do I not have the deal? I swear this thing is a real dog. I play it fan off, the cowards that they can't feel. The wife try to console me like it's coming, baby, chill. She don't understand, I'm the only one that's real. I remember the 3rd grade, them kids, they had waves. I had them BDBDs, you know that's Zimbabwe grade. So they do shades till your boy hit the stage, press play, and all the chicks was like, yeah. While boys was moving bricks, I was moving chips, yeah. If she gave me calculus, gave her a mouthful of it. Heat rose to this thing, boy, I bet on myself.
Grand Rising, everyone. Welcome to The Day with Trae. I'm your host, Trae Holiday, and I want to welcome you to an amazing episode today. I'm excited because I get the chance to sit down and chop it up with my friend, Brian Callanan. It's been a minute, so as y'all know, for those of you who've seen this show, he and I can get pretty deep, but I'm so glad that I'll be able to tap in with him, find out all the things that he's been covering since I've been out, and also, you know, his episode aired yesterday. We're going to be talking about all the things that, you know, he and his partner, David Croman, went over. So I'm excited because Brian's in the building. I'm also excited because I get to talk to Steve Sneed. That's right. He is holding up his end of the bargain by bringing his brilliance into community right now at ATS Sugiyama High School. He's going to be sharing with us an amazing event coming up that the community can participate in, an arts and education festival. They're going to be sharing so many different talents with young folks and really guiding them to see how they can use their brilliance for their own career. So I'm excited that he is also here to give us some insight on that amazing event. But of course, y'all, it's the top of the show, so it's a great time to tag and share the stream. That is right. Go ahead, tag and share the stream with folks you feel could benefit from a daily dose of dopeness right here on The Day with Trae. If you cannot watch our TV show, don't worry. We got you covered on the podcast. Just search Converge Media Network anywhere you find your favorite podcast. Search for The Day with Trae. Y'all will find me on Google, iTunes, Apple Music, Spotify, whichever one is your favorite. Y'all search for us. You'll find us there. Shout out to everybody who's tagging and sharing the podcast. We appreciate it. The audience in that regard is growing because y'all are sharing. We appreciate it so much. I'm excited, though, because, you know, anytime I got Brian here, you know it's going to be a great conversation. What's up, Brian? How are you?
I'm great, Trae. It's good to see you. It's been a while. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
It's been too long, my friend, and so I'm so glad you could tap in with me this week and share some of the things you've been up to, because I know you've been covering some things, and things just continue to move, whether we're covering them or not.
You're
so
right.
give me some updates, Brian. What's going on out there in them streets?
I guess one of the main things that we're talking about this week that I think has been a story that's been brewing for a long time is this downtown revitalization plan that Mayor Harrell is talking about, essentially making happen right out here on Pioneer Square, right on 3rd Avenue. And he's really trying to focus on the fentanyl and synthetic drug epidemic that we're going through right now as a society. And so what he's trying to do is twofold. He described it as really cracking down on people who are drug dealers out there and really trying to help people who are addicted to drugs out there. So he's trying to manage both of those things, balance both of those things. It's a very interesting project that he's working on, and I think this is an effort that mayors have tried before, certainly in this area, but he has some good support from a number of different law enforcement agencies. I think there are a number of different social service agencies that are going to help out too. And I'm interested to see what's going on here. As David Croman, the reporter from the Seattle Times, was talking to me about in the podcast, the proof is really in the pudding here. We've got to see some results. But over the next couple weeks and next couple months, keep an eye on what's happening around that 3rd Avenue Pike Pine area there especially. There's going to be more police presence. There's going to be a presence also of a special Seattle Fire Department team that specializes in overdose cases. They're trying to avoid those because the overdoses have gone up, overdose deaths have gone up. They spiked significantly in King County. So they're trying to come at this from a few different ways, and I'm interested to see what happens here, but I think this is a real test. Mayor Harrell really ran on this kind of platform when he ran a couple years ago, and so I'm interested to see how this pans out, because I think this is going to be a test of his mayorship, as it has been for every Seattle mayor, and I'm interested to see how this goes. There's one other piece that I think is a little different about this time around. He's talking about testing something out called contingency management, which is kind of a fancy term for trying to engage with people who are addicted to drugs and saying, all right, how can we talk with you, meet with you, and actually hopefully incentivize you to get involved in treatment? So what they're doing is they're giving out low-value gift cards, let's say 20, 30, 40 bucks, something along those lines. They'll get those gift cards and continue to get those kind of gifts if indeed they come back with positive results from their treatment plan, a 12-week plan there. So the administration, the Herald administration, is really trying to do this extra outreach with the social service side of it, with the law enforcement side of it, and we'll see how it goes. But it's going to be an interesting process over the next couple weeks and months.
Well, I do think that a lot of the unique challenges we're facing now, addiction has been on the rise for many years, and yet it's really taken, I know, the city by storm. I mean, cities across America, honestly, are...
COVID was a big, unfortunately, a big moment for it.
Where folks were more isolated, right? Folks were turning to, self-medication in a lot of different cases for a lot of different reasons. And it's one of those things where it's actually time for new innovative approaches. And so sometimes when I hear some of these kinds of approaches or, strategies, Brian, I think to myself, let's try something new. I mean, it's about time that we give the effort in ways that we really haven't before. And that's going to really be key to how cities really shape up and take ownership of these kinds of issues in their city. It's going to be an interesting one to see how this plays out, but I do think it's time for some new approaches.
I think so too, and I think it's a timely measure too, because you think about the All-Star game that's coming here to Seattle in July. I know we always get big crowds for the Mariners games. People are streaming by Converge Studios all the time here, but at the same time, this is going to be that next level up. People are going to be walking through the streets of Seattle. They're going to be looking at what's going on here from a very public perspective, and so I think there's some impetus there from a number of different city leaders and people who are civic leaders in our area too, to make some changes, to try to make something on the ground, very straightforward in terms of how they're dealing with these cases. And I'm interested to see how this goes, and this is going to be a test for the Herald administration, but the timing of it I think is very important before this summer when we get the Midsummer Classic coming here on July 11th. So that's another date to think about too.
Wow. Well, that also gives the city some push. I mean, some would say, like, here we go. You don't want people to see the real. You don't want people to see what's really going on. And to a certain degree, we understand that from a city perspective. But my thing is about long-term solutions, sustainability. It can't just be cleaning up for the sake of travelers who are coming for this All-Star turn. It can't be that. Because that right there is a real indication of the city not taking the responsibility or the ownership to say, no, this is something that we need to be dealing with for the long term. And this is a problem that we've talked about before, Brian, in terms of the sweeps and all these kind of things. They're temporary solutions. They're not long term. And so I think, maybe there's something to be said about incentivizing, good results. There's something to be said about that for sure. You also got to think about, okay, where do folks go? And this is why infrastructure is so key to all of this. It's one thing to incentivize. It's another thing, though, if they have the incentives and know where to go once they spend the $20 or whatever it is on a gift card. It's like, what is that really going to do for someone, and how is that going to change their lived experience?
I'm not sure. I will say, though, that it's a different approach than what we've talked about in the past. Not exactly war on drugs type thinking, but along those lines, when you think about the whole idea of some positive reinforcement for people who are going through treatment, rather than, okay, if you don't go through treatment, you're going to jail, that kind of coercive type of power there. So I think there's a balance here that the city's trying out. It sounds like this contingency management program has been successful in other areas, so we will see how that goes. But I'm very interested to see this technique, and you're right, it does need to be a long-term approach. The city has had more cops out in the Pike Pine area since the early part of last year. That was that Operation New Day that the mayor started then. So we've had a police presence there. How is this additional piece going to add to the mix and hopefully make a change there? I think a lot of people are waiting on that. Businesses are starting to come back in little by little around that area, so that'll help populate the area too. And I think a lot of eyes are going to be on the mayor with this one for sure.
Well, I'm glad that y'all are on it. What else has been kind of hitting the topics y'all been covering?
Yeah, this week there's something interesting that's been going on in the Seattle City Council, and they actually just voted this week to approve this. So this was for late fees on rent. If you pay your rent late, what is that fee? What should it be set at? A few cities around our area, Burien, Auburn, have set that at $10. And they're trying to say, okay, these late fees can get really onerous for the renters out there, and it turns into a situation where they get pushed into debt. So Seattle started looking at this as well and ended up voting on that $10 level. But there was a lot of fight back and forth within the city council about this. Councilmember Sawant started with this measure a couple of months ago, finally brought it to the finish line here, had a good amount of support, but it was a 7-2 vote. And the two council members that voted against it, Councilmember Nelson and Councilmember Peterson, they were really talking about trying to figure out ways to help out the mom and pop landlords, as they put it there, and is reducing this fee by putting it down to $10. They were looking for a $50 level there, just to try to keep something in the mix there that was a little bit more than what the council was considering there. It ended up that measure got pushed down, and it was an interesting fight there, because is $10 versus $50 really going to change the entire rental market out there? Probably not, but I think it was something where council members Nelson and Peterson were trying to notch some sort of win, if you want to call it that, for the landlords out there. And I really think the Seattle City Council, and hearing from a number of different jurisdictions like Burien and Auburn, and also hearing from renters too, were saying, okay, we still need to protect some of our renters out there. Yeah, we're out of the pandemic officially, but in terms of people actually recovering it, I think that's a much longer runway. At least that's the way I saw it and what the council was doing here. So they set that level of $10 for late fees. There also cannot be other fees laid on top of that, like a service fee for a notary coming to your door. We've all been there, but it's one of these situations where the city's trying to put a limit on that so they don't push these renters further into debt when they're running into difficult situations.
Well, honestly, something has to be done here,
Yeah.
Brian. I mean, we're talking about, people who are paying, $2,000-$3,000 in some cases
Yeah.
for a very tiny
Right.
apartment. And, we understand that there are mom and pop landlords out there. I understand that, but I also think, how much do the late fees help the landlord? I mean,
Yeah.
there's a lot, and there's a lot I don't know about
I think
that, right?
it's just trying to keep it as some sort of punitive measure such that people won't say, oh, cool, I can just pay it late. It's just another $10, that kind of a thing. And I'm just explaining the argument, not supporting it, but that's kind of the idea, I think, from the landlords from their side.
And I understand that
Yeah.
too. I think, anytime we talk about affordability when it comes to housing, it's such a major issue here. And I think it's going to, require some bold approaches.
Yeah.
I mean, some I still have yet to really kind of see to a certain degree, because how is the city protecting renters and renters' rights and tenant rights? And we see that the city has really had no cap on how they can raise the rents dramatically. If they give like a 30-day notice or 60-day
Sure.
notice or whatever, it's like there's some rents have doubled and tripled over the last like 5-10 years. It's been unmanageable, and unfortunately, it seems like there's a lot that is on the sides of the landlords and less about the renters. So, maybe this is some type of compromise. I don't know, but I do think that when people talk about rent caps, that's a whole other thing that needs to be addressed.
And there's a state law that actually prohibits that type of rent control, as it's called, in different cities around the area. So that's not happening right now. Although the city of Seattle has actually pushed for that at the state legislature for many, many years. Is it going to happen? Probably no time soon. But this is one of these kind of things, and the city council even brought it up in its discussions here. This whole talk about late fees, that really is just nibbling around the edges, isn't it? It's not really doing that big work of like, how are we honestly going to make our area more affordable for people? And that does mean involving landlords too. How do we make it less onerous for them so they can get into the market, so they can develop, so they can build, so they maybe can put on an ADU on their place and rent it out, things like that. I'm interested to see how this plays out on the larger picture, not just this whole late fee thing, but the larger picture of our state this year really pushing for this idea that, okay, guess what? We're going to have at least duplexes in every area of every city just about that's 6,000 or larger. They just passed that measure very recently here. I'm really interested to see how that pans out. Is it going to be a situation where we see duplexes everywhere immediately? No, that doesn't always pencil out for builders.
Right.
But there's the ability to do something like that. And so having that extra ability, and I think that extra impetus from the state to bring in these extra units, I'm really excited to see how that goes. Is it going to be enough to solve our affordable housing problem? Probably not. But there are some little pieces coming together here that I think are going to be really interesting to watch from a renter's perspective and a landlord's perspective too.
Well, that's a good take on that. Last topic. One more.
I don't know. We got a lot of stuff going on. I guess I will just say this. There's a few different things coming up up on the docket next week. One of them is happening at 10:30 on Monday, the 21st, and that's all about the tree protection ordinance. I'm doing a story about it this week on Seattle Channel. I urge you to check it out. It's a very complex measure here. It can affect trees on your lot. It can affect trees if you're building, anything like that. This is definitely something that affects the south end, because when we lost a lot of tree canopy over the last several years, much of that was concentrated in areas that are less affluent in the south end of town. So this is something big to consider. 10:30 in the morning on Monday. Check it out. There is a public hearing there about this tree ordinance, and the city's going to be moving on this pretty soon. It's definitely a matter of equity. It's a matter of climate. There's a lot going on with this, and I urge people to learn more about it because it's pretty important.
Oh, as always, I appreciate you for staying on top of it, Brian. For folks who may not know, let them know right there how they follow you and stay connected with Seattle News, Views, and Brews, and you, Brian Callanan.
You got it. Well, make sure you watch Seattle News, Views, and Brews right here on Converge. It happens on Wednesday nights at 7 o'clock. And also hit me up on Twitter, @Callanan Seattle. It's a great way to keep in touch, and I really appreciate the back and forth here with all your viewers, and always a good time to be with you, Trae.
Always, Brian. Thanks so much for being with me today.
Thank you.
I'm telling y'all, Brian always brings the heat. We get into it, and there's so much more that we could discuss, but I am grateful because we're going to make some space for Sir Steve Sneed. He's coming up right after this short break. Stay tuned, y'all. You're watching The Day with Trae.
COVID-19 hurt my income, my health, and my family. We were about to lose our home when we heard we might be eligible for homeowner assistance funds from the government. We called 1-877-894-HOME, and a housing counselor stepped in. They talked to our lender and saved our home. Because falling on hard times does not have to mean losing your home. Federal funding details at washingtonhaf.org.
What's up, everybody? You know, me and Besa, my girl, we had to pull up to Market Street Shoes once again, y'all.
And you know, we do this every season. We have to get the new shoes, the new boots, and this time I even got a coat.
Yeah, no, you did walk in without a coat.
I really
I'm glad
did.
you found one. But their boots were on point.
Yes, the boots, the bags. I even grabbed a flannel.
Yeah, you did. You know, and I was able to get some hats and everything. I was really impressed.
And you know, I was impressed because, of course, I got those white boots that you guys see me wearing everywhere these days.
Yeah, no, I look at your white boots and I'm like, darn it, they only have one pair. Me and Basa wear the same size. Of course, every time we walk out with several bags in hand.
Several bags and sometimes even a backpack, you guys. Make sure you check out Market Street Shoes.
Yeah, please check them out. Where they go, Basa?
Ooh, 2232 Northwest Market Street, Seattle, Washington.
Welcome back, everybody, to The Day with Trae. I'm your host, Trae Holiday, and joining me right now is Sir Steve Sneed. What's up, Steve?
What's up?
How
Sir,
are
wow,
you?
I'm not used to that.
Well, you know, as I said, really, you have been so committed to, you know, ensuring that your brilliance and your expertise stays in these young folks' minds, man. And it's a beautiful thing. I've been able to see you at work at ATS Sugiyama High School, still doing it, still teaching acting, you know, making it alive for young folks. But you're really here today to talk about the Arts and Education Festival that y'all are putting together. Tell us more about this, Steve.
Yeah, well, it's called the Liberated Village Arts and Education Festival. It's May 13th from 11 to 5. So it's during the day. It's got a lot of things going on. And it comes from the Liberated Village, this organization called the Liberated Village, which is a school without walls. This is $1 million initiative that is set up with about 20 different organizations, funded by the county, by King County. And it's set up to educate our black and brown young people of all ages, primarily middle school and high school. And so the 20 or so organizations will be featured at the festival. And really, you know, it's like a big open house. That's what it is, right? But we'll have prizes. We'll give away prizes. We'll have free food. We got Philly's Best there giving out free sandwiches. And we'll have some other food vendors. So the parents And young people will be able to learn about the Liberated Village, and then also to see some of the young people's work on display. We've got a filmmaker who's managing a kind of, we're calling it a film festival, but it'll be a series of shorts that's student films. Anita, I think you may have met Miss Anita, Dr. Cal, we call her. So we'll have films by the young people. We'll have dance performances and music that they're mixing. Vitamin D teaches the hip hop music, so he'll have some of their music on display. And it's just an opportunity to sort of celebrate our young people, for one thing, but to also give other young people and other parents an opportunity to get their kids registered for some of these organizations and to participate in the Liberated Village.
Well, clearly the need is definitely big and wide. And so I love hearing this kind of, way of not just showcasing the brilliance within these organizations, but the services that they're really looking to give young people and the families really as an extension.
Oh, yeah.
I think about my kids all the time, and part of, me being embedded in community means that I have a purview to so many different nodes that they can hit. But a lot of parents don't have that. And so tell us from your experience how you've been able to kind of guide parents to understand some of these opportunities that exist outside of the schools oftentimes for their young people to be even more enriched.
Yeah. Well, and that's what the village does. I mean, it involves the parents as well as the young people. It's not just for young people, but it is for the parents as well. There's Dr. Sullivan provides classes on how to best educate black and brown children. And she teaches teachers, parents, adults, so that they can understand the needs. And she's been doing this work for years. So you have opportunities for the parents to be just as engaged, to be leaders. They serve in various ways throughout this process. So it is not just for young people. I just want to be clear about that. It is for parents as well, so that they can understand the needs of their children as well as understand the opportunities. It's just like the college preparation. College preparation, when my kids were first going to college, I realized the process of just getting them finding a college and getting them registered and set up, and the cost is just, if you haven't done you had no experience with that, then it's just a big, it's a big challenge to figure out how to get. And so we provide that. We provide services that help young people and parents understand how you get into college. What colleges are out there? What do they cost? So, but at the same time, there's an organization that deals with trades and teaches young people about the various trades and what kind of living you can make in trade. So there are many opportunities, finance, and the finance education that this one group does is for the parents and the students. So everybody learns about financial management and the options for managing your money, investing your money, that sort of thing. So it's really, which is why it's called the village, because it's complete with so many different ways of engaging young people and families, really. And that's who's invited to the festival, to learn about the village.
Well, this goes back to the original. People have heard me say it a lot, but I always talk about the original civilizations, right? So much of it was village minded. It had a village format. And oftentimes what they did back then, these are some of the things and tools and ideologies we need to bring back today. Right. Someone sent me something recently and it said, look, we had an understanding in some of our original societies. We had an understanding that, hey, if you do something, you have a skill, you do a business, we all come to you for that thing because you're in our community, right? Somebody in the community does something, we go to them. Even if somebody outside of the community can do it maybe a little bit better or for less cost or whatever, we do not go outside of the community to do that. We stay within. And communities having that understanding and perspective, there's a real level of respect that then each node of community can give to the other, because we already know you you are buying from that person who makes shoes, you're buying from that person who does welding or whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
The services and products are really within the community. And this village, the Liberated Village, really represents that, right? Because each one of these organizations is doing something different, but they all have something that these families can benefit from.
Right.
And therein lies the real node of like what a family can walk away with is all of these amazing connections.
Yeah, that is, and that's the purpose of the festival. This big open house is to have the opportunity to meet all of the different leaders and the organizations that are providing these services. Wow. That's what that's for. And we'll do an orientation, so we'll talk about the village and who the people are. We'll talk about, there's a registration so that we have, because in trying to create a community like we used to have, we were talking earlier about gentrification. Well, when the CD was the CD, what I grew up in, everything was there. We had our connections. We had what was called Saturday school. And so we've been talking about that within the village, this idea, because supplementing the education for our young people is really critical.
It is.
The school systems, they just don't provide what our students need, and that's evident. You look at the data, and that tells you that. Yeah. So you have to supplement. You have to do something else to make sure your child gets the exposure, gets the quality education. At our school, I've heard students say, wow, I never understood math until I came here.
Wow.
Well, it's because you got a smaller environment, and the students, they get more attention. And it's the same thing with all these providers. They're small organizations, and they're dedicated, and a lot of times dedicated because of their own children's experiences in a school system. So, what we do. Internships here at ATS. We got the internship. The kids all love it. Yeah. The exposure. Our young lady, just when she got to meet you and see your environment, she was lit up. She doesn't have that kind of experience.
Yeah.
And so that kind of thing, that's what you'd have in a village. You'd have opportunities to engage with professional adults in different arenas and be able to, and just that exposure helps you to understand more and grow. So, the village is important for all those reasons.
Well, it's a key anchor. I mean, especially when you talk about it through the eyes of young folks who are being exposed. Yeah. It's just a key anchor. And that's why I'm so grateful for all of the folks who continue to pour into my two sons, because it's beyond family. It's like there's this whole thing, and they're anchors for them, right? That allow for them to understand that they're valuable, they're brilliant, they're geniuses, right? In the ways that we pour in. Really, I'm as a parent, I am just elated because I get to experience the fruits of having that village mentality around. I mean, when you think about something like this, Steve, and all the years that you've been dedicated to, young people and their creative abilities and talents, what is something for you that's really exciting about, this upcoming event? Because I'm sure there are multiple things, but you've been doing this for a really long time, and this is like another node, almost another wave of, brilliance in all these organizations that you and others at ATS are able to plug folks and families into. Yeah, well,
the thing I initially thought about, I didn't know I didn't know exactly what you're going to ask, but what you made me think about, and this is related, but what excites me after doing this for so many years is that I've had one young person in particular, and I've had others do this, but when they come to you like 10 years or even 15 years later, and this one young lady, this is exactly what she says. She says, Mr. Sneed, as an adult, she says, Mr. Sneed, I am so embarrassed for how I behaved when I was, and she's right. She should be embarrassed, right? But what I saw was a young lady now in business for herself, productive, doing things, and it tells me that you don't give up on anybody. You never give up on anybody, because people, young people, and that's why they need us as adults. because they need some guidance, they need some direction, they need some vision to be able to see what's possible for them. So what I'm excited about for this event, more than anything, is just the opportunity for all of us to be in one spot and to see this village, to experience the village, to meet each other. I mean, you know, we love a gathering anyway, right? And that's what it's all about, to come together for the young people and the adults and the teachers and the educators and the activity producers and all the folks who are involved to be in one spot and to be able to share and to understand each other. And, you know, we'll do it again, I'm sure, but this is the first time we'll do this. So that's what I'm really excited about, the gathering.
Well, you know, I got to say, you got me excited too. I'm telling you, I'm excited because I understand what's being poured into this amazing event so that families can really walk away and get that outpouring, right?
Yes,
that we can pour into families.
Yes. That's
the key here.
That's
and for
it.
young folks to understand it. I want you to look right there in that camera. Make sure
Okay,
folks know
which one?
this one
one?
closest to
Okay.
me. How do they, you know, make sure that they show up on May 13th? Where do they get the info?
Okay, well, the best place is to get it from me right now. May 13th at Alan T. Sugiyama High School. It used to be called South Lake. And it starts at 11. Like I say, we'll have free food, so you don't have to worry about lunch because we'll have lunch for you. It'll start at 11. Now, let me ask you, can we put something on the screen with the website and that sort of thing? Phone number, is that possible?
Look, we can put it in the caption at least. I'll make sure
all
that,
right,
you know.
we'll do that. But May 13th, write that down or make note of that at Alan T. Sugiyama High School at 11. It starts at 11 a.m. And the phone number, I would get that to you.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah,
Thank you so much, Steve.
All right.
It's always a pleasure to be with you, and I just want to publicly thank you for your tireless dedication to our community. You have, you know, received awards for it, but awards could never really tell the tale of your impact. And I'm just grateful that I don't have to apologize to you for how I showed up as a young person in your life. So I will say, just thank you for staying very consistent and always being that resource for, you know, young folks and families.
Yeah.
We are so grateful to have you here in this community, shining your light on all of us. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Trae.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Oh, y'all, I told you it's going to be a wonderful episode. Of course, I get to wrap it all up right after this short break. Stay tuned. You're watching The Day with Trae. What's up, everybody? You know, me and Besa, my girl, we had to pull up to Market Street Shoes once again, y'all.
And you know, we do this every season. We have to get the new shoes, the new boots, and this time I even got a coat.
Yeah, no, you did walk in without a coat.
I really
I'm glad
did.
you found one. But their boots were on point.
Yes, the boots, the bags. I even grabbed a flannel.
Yeah, you did. You know, and I was able to get some hats and everything. I was really impressed.
And you know, I was impressed because, of course, I got those white boots that you guys see me wearing everywhere these days.
Yeah, no, I look at your white boots and I'm like, darn it, they only had one pair. Me and Besa wear the same size. Of course, every time we walk out with several bags in hand.
Several bags and sometimes even a backpack, you guys. Make sure you check out Market Street Shoes.
Yeah, please check them out. Where they go, Besa?
Ooh, 2232 Northwest Market Street, Seattle, Washington.
COVID-19 hurt my income, my health, and my family. We were about to lose our home when we heard we might be eligible for homeowner assistance funds from the government. We called 1-877-894-HOME, and a housing counselor stepped in. They talked to our lender and saved our home. Because falling on hard times does not have to mean losing your home. Federal funding details at washingtonhaf.org.
Yep. Welcome back, everyone, to The Day with Trae. I'm your host, Trae Holiday, and of course, I got to give a huge shout out to both my guests today. Brian Callanan from Seattle Channel and Seattle News, Views, and Brews, giving us some real insight into what he has been capturing, what's going on this week on Seattle News, Views, and Brews. Make sure y'all do check that out on Wednesday nights right here on Converge Media at 7 p.m. Always tackling these issues that we need to know about. And of course, I got to thank Sir Steve Sneed for being here with me today to share with us this amazing event that's coming there to ATS High School, ATS Sugiyama High School, right there in the south end of Seattle. Y'all make sure y'all are there. Bring your families, bring the kids, bring everyone. May 13th, 11 a.m. is when it starts. Y'all can be looking out for that. You know, this idea of the Liberated Village, of all of these amazing organizations connecting with one another and building an ecosystem for families to be able to benefit from is a beautiful thing, and it's so needed in our community. But again, you know, I want to tell y'all, I'm inspired always by what my guests share. And today, I'm even more inspired because it's another example of what it means for us to be pouring into each other from within, right? We don't always have to go outside of our community to find the answers. The answers are right here. And honestly, it is such a beautiful feeling to know when you are a parent or you have children, young people you're caring for, that there is a village that is ready and willing to pour into the young folks in your lives and do some things for us as adults when it comes to certain things that we need to be learning together in our families. So I just am excited that this event is going on. I encourage all y'all to go out there and participate in this amazing event. And I want to thank y'all for watching with me today. Of course, for me, until tomorrow at 11 a.m., y'all. Peace.